Today we're going to talk about the Enlightenment technique. The core of our Enlightenment work is contained in the Enlightenment technique. Understanding it makes it possible to conduct an Enlightenment Intensive properly. It seemed to me that the age-old technique of reflecting on who am I was a very good one. But it was slow. What could be done to speed it up? I had years of experience in working on communication techniques, or how people could communicate better with each other. Especially on a one-to-one basis. And for years I'd worked with dyad formats, investigated various aspects of it, and had made some fundamental observations. For example, that the mind is generated when something is not understood between individuals. Now, that is a core principle. The mind is generated when something is not understood between people. For example, if I say something in this talk and you don't understand it, we will have contributed to the mind and put more into it. If, on the other hand, you've understood it, then we've communicated. And it is not stored in the mind. We'll catch your questions in the afternoon. You should make any notes that you have of things that you don't understand and keep your mind in your notebook. And then, when you've understood it, then you don't need to look at your notebook anymore, because you, so to speak, have got it. In other words, it's entered the realm of knowingness and leaves the realm of the mind. This is an important principle, because the Enlightenment technique is partially built around that observation. The mind gets filled up because it is a storage of those things that are not understood, that are not digested, that are not fully experienced. Like past traumas, where things have been too intense for somebody. They store them in the mind for further digestion or for later digestion. Or maybe they have digested part of it at the time it occurred, but the part that's not understood, or the part that is not experienceable, is suspended in the mind, pending, marked pending. Do you ever have a desk with a pending box on it? Basket marked pending, and you keep throwing stuff into it to be done later? Well, that's the mind. And well, someday I'm going to get to that stuff. And you work on it a little bit, and you get a few of the sheets on the top down, and then 10 more come in, because it's just too much to handle at one time. While you glance at it and you say, oh, I don't understand that, I'll work on that later, throw it in the basket. This is what the mind is made up of. And it gets chock full. Also, in that same or a similar basket marked outgoing, you throw in outgoing messages, but nobody ever comes by to read it. The messenger never comes by to pick it up and deliver it any place. And so other people have not understood your messages that you have for others. Now, when one is trying to contemplate, say, on who am I, it would be relatively easy to do so if one didn't have a mind. One tries to contemplate who they are, but the mind gets in the way. By having all these other ideas that are stored in the mind that have to do, for example, with themselves. And boy, there might be a lot of ideas which they have not understood from the world or the environment about them, people and things, that have made comments one way or another about who they are. And also, there have been a lot of things about themselves that have not been able to get understood by other people in the world around. It's very small. Therefore, in the mind are all kinds of stored ideas, experiences, emotional feelings, traumas, memories are all stored up about themselves. So one tries to contemplate, and we'll go into that later, who it is that they are. And they get all these things in the mind instead of who they are. That's why it takes years and years and years of solo contemplation to try to find one's way through the morass of the mind. You know, if listening to somebody tell you who you were, or tell you who you are, did any good, we'd all been long since enlightened. If having data in the mind led to enlightenment, then we would be enlightened, because there's plenty of correct information about who you are. But it is not a direct experience. It's information from somebody else. That's an indirect experience. Memories, impressions, fears. What if I were this? Are all stored up in the mind. And these impressions in the mind are not enlightenment experiences. They're impressions in the mind.